Okay. Okay, everyone. If you all will start making your way down to the chairs, and if you'll start in the front and move back, not the back and move front. Okay. So fill up the chairs from front to back. We live? Ooh, I'm live. Yeah. All right, let's let everybody get settled. And JT and Collis, if you all join me up here. Oh, look at you.
Oh, we get stools.
You have stools. It is, I know it. But I'm not giving you a microphone yet. So, yeah, all right. Okay, I think we're settled. Thank you all so much for coming. And I'm so pleased that we have so many people here tonight who have been coming to the church under a year or under. This is really, really wonderful. And the first time we've had children here. So it's like this is a great, great celebration. Perfect time to be grateful as we're in the midst of Generosity Month. So I want to just take a few moments of privilege to do some gratitudes of my own. First, I think we'd all want to thank Barbara Wells for the beautiful meal we had tonight. Yeah. That charcuterie board was like amazing. But Barbara and her father have been coming to our church for quite some time now, and she does some catering business on the side, so we've used her a couple times. We'll certainly do it again because she did a beautiful job. I also want to thank our board of directors, and I think everyone is here, either in the room or online. So if you'll stand up as I call your name, Jana Lee, Heineman, Jim LaChapelle. Don't stand up. You don't need to stand up, honey. He just had knee surgery, so you're good. You're good. Joe McKenzie right here, Nancy Maxwell, and Amy Schneider, who is online, I believe, tonight. And then Cindy Stevens-Pino. There she is. Right, yeah. Thank you. Often, some of the people who are doing a lot of hard work that you'll hear about tonight, and you may not always see them or know them. So I want you to be aware of all the hard work that they do. And then we have two new board members coming on. Nancy Maxwell, we've just re-elected. But we have Marcy Jack, who's right here, and Liz Ann. Where are you? Liz Ann is right over here, welding. And I also want to thank the Generosity team because they worked really hard tonight to make all of this work. First of all, we have Letitia, who's the chair of the Generosity team, and somewhere, there she is, all right. And Jorge, who's back at the media booth. Doug Berger, who's here. Doug somewhere, there we go. And also Amy Snyder, who is online. So thanks to them. You know, they do a lot of work as well because, you know, they have to prepare every Sunday to do the generosity moment. And so they rotate that between them and do a really great job of that. And so I hope you'll thank them sometime because that's all year long, every week, that they are reminding us what it means to be generous. And so I really appreciate the work they do and the chance to work with them. Of course, I want to thank our amazing staff. I hope you all realize for a church our size, we have just not only really wonderful people, but we have world-class staff members here. I'm constantly having to keep other churches off of these two. And so I want you all to thank them more often because we want to keep them as long as we can. And also on our staff are, of course, J.T. Pryor and Reverend Collis Layton, but also Julie Waters, who's our music director. Julie's back here. And Jorge is our media ministry leader. And then Christina Dietrich, who's our piano player. She's not here tonight, but yeah, right. And Oliver Dill, who had to work tonight, unfortunately, but he is also part of our staff. So you can see that we are very, very lucky, blessed, everything other kind of adjective you could use to describe our staff. And then, of course, I want to thank all of you. It's emotional for me after being in MCC for almost 45 years and being a pastor for 25 of those, to sort of be at the end of my career and look what I get to do and look who I get to do it with, you know. And that's certainly a staff, but also all of you. And I hope that you will see through the course of this evening just what an amazing church this is. And is it true that you have an amazing staff? Sure. And it wouldn't matter if you weren't willing to go. It wouldn't matter if you weren't willing to move and shift and change and grow. None of it would matter. We could work our butts off and it wouldn't matter. And so thanks to all of you for taking this ride with us because it's been a good one and I think it's just about to get really better. You know, so it's a good time to be here. It's a good time to be here, and so I feel so incredibly blessed to be one of your pastors. All right, so are you ready to buckle up and go with me tonight and with all of us because we got a lot to share. So I want to ask you to just hang in there with us, all right? We're pretty decent speakers, so we're going to do our best to keep you engaged, all right? And there's still a lot of things we want to say. None of us, we don't get a lot of an opportunity to talk about all the things that are going on. Really, Sundays are the chance we have everybody in the room and get a chance. But worship is not for this. That's not what it's for. And we don't want to overload worship with things that aren't really about worship. And so we appreciate an opportunity to, tonight, basically cover three things. We want to talk about where we started this year and what we have accomplished in this year. We want to talk a little bit about something you've heard us say or refer to, but you might not know what it means, and that is a new spiritual landscape out there that has unfolded in a post-pandemic world in a way that, I don't know if we had any way to expect or understand it until some years went by, and now there's research for it. So we want to talk a little bit about that and how are we going to meet this moment where these post-pandemic realities are with us. And then we want to talk a little bit about next year and then a little bit beyond next year, which is really exciting, I think. So are you ready to strap in? And let's do this, okay? Let's do it. All right, so let's start with at the beginning of 2025. And where did we start? Because I want to take you back. I want to take you back to last November, where we had a congregational meeting, and then we ensued upon the year 2025. I want to talk to you about where we started, all right? So here are some things. First of all, we started with a $64,000 deficit budget. That was a way we started the year, okay? We approved a deficit budget, which was a huge act of faith on the part of this congregation. And we also had a lot of financial anxiety. Trust me on this. Most of you told me just how anxious you were. We had a fewer number of people who gave pledges last year and a lower amount than we'd had in previous years. And we were facing the reality that I was going to take a 3-month sabbatical. That's a heck of a way to start the year. But we started with some other things as well. That's not the only things that were with us. We, first of all, had growing attendance. We can go on to the next slide. So we had a seasoned staff, thank goodness, to enter the year, a growing attendance in worship, growing engagements with our community partners, and we had solid signs of increasing young adult engagement. That was the reason that we were willing to take a $64,000 deficit budget, was because we were banking on that investment paying off with more young adults. And I think you'll see tonight that it did indeed pay off. Yes, it did. And then we did have some tools going into 2025, so let's talk about those. There was some goals that were given to me when I was called here to be the senior pastor. So the search committee gave me some goals, and I like to remind you all of what they were, okay, because it is really what you brought me here to do. And so here they are. You can see them in blue. First of all, to create a culture that was more transparent, more kind, and better able to deal with conflict. The history of this church is that it had been pretty conflict-ridden and a lot of difficulties because of that. And so to change the culture so that we are more kind and we work with conflict in a different way. We are not trying to stop conflict from happening, because that's a crazy notion. We'll always have conflict with us. It's only how we choose to deal with it, and whether we take our toys and go home or whether we stay in the room with each other and work it through and learn to be adults. And so that was one of the things that the search committee passed on to me. And then there was to work on seeking and welcoming young people. So we are well on our way in doing that. And then there was help us to grow spiritually. It was an interesting I was very happy as a pastor that I was asked to do that. It's like, well, you should expect that from your pastors, but I appreciated that it was named, that some deeper spirituality needed to happen in this church. And then to be visible in and have an impact on our larger, greater community. And then to strengthen our diversity in all areas. So I have kept those in front of me and in front of the staff, and these are things we think about all the time. And then the other tools we had were the awareness of a new spiritual landscape. So because we did some research about it in 2024, earlier in 2024, we knew some of what was in front of us because of it, so we had that with us. And we had 4 strategic priorities. Those are the ones that you're looking at on the sheet that you have, the 4 strategic priorities. We're not going to look at those just yet, but that is what you have in front of you just in case you need to know. All right. I want to first talk about the new spiritual landscape. All right. I hope this is going to not only be exciting for you, but interesting, because it sure was interesting doing the research. So we just wanted to ask questions about what does the research tell us? What is the data that's available in a post-pandemic reality for churches and for the spiritual landscape? What analysis can we do to determine our next steps because of it? And what new ideas and thoughts can come from this exploration? So I want to show you the sources. So I want you to understand this was real research. This wasn't something we pulled out of thin air, okay? There are several places that we drew from. First of all, the Barna Research Group, which is a long-time research group, and they only study churches. That's what they do. It is their business. The Pew Research Center, also, that is the same case with them. The Bridge Initiative at Chandler School of Theology. This one was interesting because this was done because of the pandemic. And it was called Bridge because they were wondering how we were going to bridge between a pre-pandemic, then in pandemic, and then post-pandemic world. And so it was particularly focused on that. The Spiritual But Not Religious podcast, how many people tell you that? Or you hear people say, I'm spiritual but not religious. So religion has certainly gotten a bad rap, and for some very good reasons, I would say. And then the Hartford Institute for Religious Research. These are all the places that we did our homework to try to figure out what's happening. So what did the data say? You ready? This is all very, very interesting, I think. So first of all, it told us that young adults between 20 and 35, so that's how it's defined in the research, and the Duns. I don't know if any of you have heard of the Duns. These are people who used to go to church regularly, were very faithful churchgoers, and they got so disillusioned with the church that they left. And so many of them for a lifetime had gone to church and then left the church. So these are the Duns. We're just done with it. And so they say they have left the church because of 8 specific things. 1, a lack of relevance. They go to church, they can't figure out how to take what's happening at church and make it relevant to their everyday life. Number 2, there it is, that they're not welcomed to doubt and question things that are spiritual in nature. And number 3, busy and changing lifestyles. This is something that was a huge thing that happened during the pandemic, is that people really shifted how they spent their time and what they decided was important. And so the lifestyles have really shifted. Number 4, hypocrisy of the church. I mean, most of us don't have to have that explained to us, so no surprise there. Number 5, cultural shifts. This is in part the cultural wars that we have going on in our country, and we've had it going on really during the pandemic is when some of it got, started to wind itself up, and we're still dealing with it today. Number 6, a lack of community. So people were going to church, perhaps, but feeling like they weren't in community, even though they were going. Number 7, an absence of personal growth in church. Like I'm spending some time going to church, giving my best to the church, and then I'm not really growing personally. So we thought that was kind of an interesting thing. And number 8, negative past experiences in church. Again, for many of you, I don't have to tell you what that's about, right? That people have a lot of church trauma and a lot of bad experiences coming out of churches. And so now it's not just something we kind of sort of think is true. The research absolutely supports the idea that people are having bad experiences when they go to church. So it's not surprising that they don't want to come to church or anything that sounds like it's going to be church. All right. So we also then have this idea that in the last 10 years, 43% of Christian churches have closed. That's a lot of Christian churches. So this is generally, this is not MCC in particular, but in general, Christian churches in this country, 43%. There are reasons for it, and here they are in the research. They have used their endowments and reserves until they run out of money, and then they close. So I want you to hear this because this is going to come up again and again for us. They had money and they still died. So they sat, you know what they used their money for? To do the same thing over and over and over again until they died. There's something seriously wrong with that, right? Now, money won't fix everything, but it'll fix some things. And it should be something we use to help keep us doing the things we need to do. Number two, people said that reasons for closures was it lacked the will to change and aged out. So churches just lacked the will to do anything different, and people just got old enough that they died and they aged out, right? So I'm sure we all kind of understand that. We kind of know it inherently. Number three, failed to keep or add members during or after the COVID pandemic. Now, that was a hard lift during the pandemic to hold on to people. We came back after the pandemic. First of all, we lost 14 people to death in this church during the pandemic years, the year and a half. When we came back to church, we could identify 42 people that were no longer here. But we knew exactly where they all were. So we knew that some of them had to work on Sunday now. They didn't before the pandemic. Some people moved out of state, moved to new places. Some people just got out of the habit of going to church and decided not to come back. So there were a variety of reasons, but so holding on to members was really hard. And if there weren't some efforts in the year, especially after the pandemic, to hold on to people and to come through that, then that caused some church closures. Number four, had burned out their leaders and clergy. We'll just let that go by. I mean, I could talk a long time about that, but you get the idea, I'm sure, about that. Number five, had a lack of agility and lacked motivation to transform. So something major happened when our whole world went through a pandemic. And the idea that people came back to church and just wanted it to be the same is kind of kooky if you think about it, right? That's kind of crazy talk. But an awful lot of churches did exactly that. They were like, we're going to go back. And back was never a real thing. There was no back. That was a hard thing, I think, for people to get used to, but it's still very, very true. Okay, and the next. In this new spiritual landscape, so these are all the reasons people left church, but in the spiritual landscape, there's some new things for us to understand and what it includes now that perhaps it didn't before. So first, a desire to knit together a spiritual tapestry based on many spiritual traditions and practices. So I want you to think about it like a quilt, like this desire to take a little bit of something from over here and a little bit of something. So I might want to take a Buddhist practice over here, and I might want to take a Jewish practice over here, or I might want to take, something from the Muslim tradition. We do this with the singing bowls. Sometimes we do our chiming of the hour with a singing bowl. That is both a Buddhist and a Muslim tradition. So taking things, different practices from different faith traditions, and knitting them together to build a spiritual life, okay? And so think about how hard it is for most Christian churches to hold that. I think we're learning to hold that in a different way, but it sounds like we're going to need to. Learn to hold that more and more. Second, a less structured belief system. In other words, a rejection of dogma and doctrine. So most Christian churches are held together by doctrine. You understand that, right? Like you sign on to go to a particular church because you agree on a certain set of beliefs, right? And that's how you sort of sign on to be part of a particular Christian church. This is a place where we have a little bit of a leg up. This was easier for us because we have always, from our very beginning, we've always had a room full of people who did not all believe the same things. And we've never required it. We've never made it an essential thing that we all believe the same things. And so this one is a plus, for us. Number 3, a keen interest in social justice. Look at this. What's in parentheses there is the order the research says that people care about social justice now in this new landscape. Inclusion is number 1, so include a bigger tent. Care for the planet is number 2. Care for each other is number 3. And protecting those in the margins, those who are most vulnerable, is number 4. So again, these are not new to us in particular, but I do want to say this. It can't be item B for us anymore, right? It can't be B, C, D. This is going to have to move up to the top of our understanding about what it means to be the church. Number 4, an interest in building and participating in authentic community. So what this basically means is that that might mean for some people worship, but it might be other forms of community where people find their church, if you would, and it might not be worship. What's hard on churches about this is that we have spent the last century in Christian churches making worship the primary entry point, making worship the thing that tells us whether we're being successful or not, and we're going to have to throw that out because it is not going to be, it is not now the only significant way that we can measure people's engagement in their spiritual life and in community. Okay, and then number 5, there is a suspicion of institutionalized religion because of the harm it has inflicted. Again, I don't really have to tell you about that, do I? I mean, a lot of harm has been inflicted by the institution of the church. However, we also need to realize that every time, I mean, the 3 of us experience it all the time, we introduce ourselves. And I say, John, I'm Reverend Lily Brock from Church of the Trinity. Before I even get a full sentence out of my mouth, I've said the word church. And I can watch it that 50% of the time I've already lost them. Like, they just want to get out of my presence as quickly as they can. You see, and that's because of this. The institution of the church has harmed people so much that it's becoming more and more a dirty word. And with Christian nationalism on the rise, it's only getting worse in that way. Okay. And then number 6, there's an interest in personal growth that includes spirituality. That may not sound so major, but here's the thing. It used to be the opposite, that people had an interest in spirituality with a little bit of personal growth on the side. Now it's the flip side. Like, I want to have a lot of personal growth, and I want a piece of that to be my spirituality. So it's a bit of a flip in how we think about what we're doing. All right, and then what are the spiritual practices that are most sought after? So these are very interesting as well. So first, prayer, first thing in the research that people seek. However, it's in lots of different forms, all right? So meditation is at the top of the list, and this is fascinating to me. And we've been offering meditation around here a long time, and we're going to have to find different ways to do it, different places to do it, different ways we think about it. And then it's followed by things like coloring, where people are meditative and prayerful while they are coloring. Walking the labyrinth actually made the list in the research. Hiking, doing walking prayer, and yoga. These were at the top, top 4 or 5 things that people said about prayer that they're interested in. And then rituals that mark experiences and give them meaning. All right, so church, if you've gone to sleep, I want you to wake up for a minute. You see all this stuff here that we spend hours and hours doing in every sermon series? These are rituals, right? These are ways for us to mark meaning for the things that we are doing, that are not just words, but they're actually things we do, we engage them, we see them, they're there as symbols. But what the research seems to indicate is we have to do this in new and meaningful ways. It can't just be the same rituals we've done for 100 years. but they've got to be meaningful to the people who are participating in them. Okay, number 3, outreach projects, volunteering, service to others. These are spiritual practices that matter to people. Number 4, book study. The Bible could be included, but not exclusively, so this could be all kinds of books. And number 5, of course, a lot of times in churches, if we use a book, it's still kind of only a spiritual book or only a religious book or in some way related to the Bible. So this means, how do we bring contemporary text into our lives? And then number 5, support groups that have a spiritual component. So that could be things like AA and NA groups, but it could also be like our trans groups who want some spirituality but also need support of other kinds. There are lots of those that we could list off. Okay. All right. And then the church must reframe what it means to be a spiritual community. I think this is what we probably have to pay attention to the most. Much of it is accomplished outside the walls of the church. That's the new mission of the church. And this effort, do you see the last sentence? This outpaces worship in the research. That people are interested in being spiritual outside the walls, taking action that is actually a reflection of what we believe and a reflection of our spiritual life that's happening out there, and that outpaces people's desire to come to worship. So we cannot ignore that. I mean, we can just keep saying, oh, we wish they'd come to worship, and we can keep saying it. And we do, of course, if they want to. But we can't just say, but if they don't, we just ignore it. Because they're out there and they want to be doing this particular thing. All right, number 2, people gather around shared concerns, projects, social activities, and meaningful relationships. This is why people gather. Will you hold this word gather for me? Because we're going to come back to it at the end as a key word for our future. All right, gathering. All right. Number 3, the traditional rhythms of church no longer fit the lifestyles and desires for community. Right, Molly? I mean, you know, if you've got 4 kids on Sunday morning and that's the day you get to sleep in, the rhythm of a 10 o'clock a.m. service is just not, you know, it might not work every week, right? I mean, and there are a dozen stories like that for different kinds of reasons, that the rhythms just don't always work the way they used to. You know, I grew up in a culture in South Alabama where on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, everybody went to somebody's church. Everybody went to church. That was just a cultural norm. It is not anymore, even in the most religious places. Okay, number 4, being in community by being in partnership with others who share your values. This is sort of a new pop-up in the research for churches to actually be intentional about partnerships that are in the community. And number 5, internal and external community needs to be more balanced. The church, as we have known it, is far too internally focused for the new landscape. You want to tell them quickly about the woman we were talking about today on TikTok who called churches?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, was it you? It was me.
No, it's me. But he needs a mouthpiece. So there is a woman on TikTok doing a social experiment where she has been calling Christian churches, some other organizations as well, but mostly Christian churches, with the sound of a crying baby in the background. There is no baby, but it's an experiment. And the experiment is, hey, my SNAP benefits are cut. I don't have any money for formula. Can you help me out with a can of formula? Maybe about $15. I don't know how much it is. And seeing if the church would provide it. And at one point, there were about 33 Christian churches, and I believe 7 actually offered help. The others said, no, we don't have the money. No, we don't have it in benevolence. And you've got a crying baby on the phone. This is a life or death situation, and churches are not connected. And they're not even saying, oh, I'm connected to a food pantry. Can you call this food pantry? They're just saying, no.
Yeah.
So that's what we mean about
the woman actually recorded one of her conversations with a pastor who said, well, we have a benevolence fund, but our policy is that we can only use it for our people. Ooh, Lord. I almost lost my mind when I heard it. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, so we need to kind of raise our awareness. The good thing is MCC has always had more of an external focus than most Christian churches, perhaps. But we're even going to have to up our game in that regard. We're going to have to see, like Sunday morning in this room is one congregation, and then there's a whole other congregation out there. It's like having, we would have had a second service, right? We would have said, well, our first service is full, we need to have a second one. Now our second service is out there, and in different ways, or that's just one way to think about it. Okay, real quickly now, theology only matters if it's fresh, inclusive, and does the work of the historical Jesus. So this is really important about theology. A focus on the humanity of Jesus is relatable. You know, the divinity of Jesus is what has often been focused on almost exclusively, as opposed to the humanity of Jesus, which seems to have been part of the point, was for God to become human and be in all ways like us. And so, but we've sort of lost our focus, or some churches have. Number two, putting major focus on Jesus as one who showed affinity for outcasts and those who were invisible and silenced is compelling now to people. So we should feel good about this, that this is something we already pretty much embrace, so it's not so hard for us to already be in that part of the landscape. Helping people reclaim or claim the Bible as relatable and helpful, even though it has errors and fallibilities. So we're helping people to reclaim something that's been used as a weapon, against them in many cases. Number four, lift up the value of other sacred and contemporary texts that support our faith journey. We do that every Sunday morning. We use another kind of text, a contemporary text of some kind, not just Scripture. Number five, view the spiritual life as a journey, a process of learning, rather than a focus on sin and condemnation as a motivator around salvation and eternity. We just did a sermon series on this, right? And so this is part of the reason that we wanted to do that sermon series, was to say the landscape is starting to realize that sin and condemnation, and too much of that, is what is harming them. And so that's back to the other point about the harm, that has been done. So very important that we think of that in our theology. Symbols of our faith. Get this. The symbol of the cross has very mixed reviews for people under 50 years old. Very mixed reviews, as in some people see it as a torture of the state, which is not wrong. I mean, there's some truth to that, right? Some people see it as just this gross reminder. Some people have been sexually assaulted while people were holding a cross during the attack. So there's all kinds of ways that people have been traumatized by the use of the cross. So there seems to be mixed, as a symbol, there's mixed review. Number two, church buildings, very important, are, for many, a symbol of wasted money that could go to better causes. Isn't that the truth? You see these humongous buildings and on with bricks and mortar when there are people who are hungry, so it's kind of trying to balance that out in some way. Baptism is often still seen as a wonderful event, but the meaning forced on it is not always meaningful. And number four, closed communion, or communion that requires a lot of moral imperatives or forced rubrics, has decreasing appeal. This one we can ride on till the cows come home, because we've been doing it since our first service in MCC 57 years ago. Number five, the word church carries so much negative connotations that many churches have already changed their names, and they don't include the word church. Even very fundamentalist churches know this part, right? So even in our own city, I'm giving you some examples here. Grace Church, Bayside, The Journey, where church is not in the name at all. And when I see the way people look at me when I say Church of the Trinity, I'm kind of on board with them. All right, if you'll look at your strategic priorities, this was the other tool we came into this year with. We had 4: congregational growth and care, stakeholder and community involvement, planning for future impact, and financial models for growth. So, the first one is congregational growth and care. Here were the sort of goals that went with this particular priority. We wanted to see an upward trend line in worship attendance. We wanted to work on our first-time guest process. What that means is that our retention of first-time guests, we've always had a lot of first-time guests, but retaining them has been an issue. Indications of spiritual growth, indicators of handling conflict in a healthy way. Remember that as a goal that was given to me when I came here. Indicators of an increased ability to shift and change, and improved congregational care. So these were things that we were working on in 2025. So I want you to see our worship attendance. I think you'll be pleased from 2021 to 2025. You can see that it is a nice, steady, upward trend line for worship attendance. And just realize that for the majority of churches in this country, that trend line is going down, not up. So we're very happy to see that. This year, that number is projected, because we only have it through October, so November and December projected based on last year. So we'll see how that number actually turns out. But it looks like we're going to be 8 to 10 people per week up over 2024. And so I'm very pleased with that. I hope that you feel good about that too. Yeah, it's really good. Okay, and then the reasons for this increased attendance. That's more important than the number, okay? More people can see themselves represented in the congregation. That is so key, that somebody comes in the door and they can see themselves. So what this means for us is we have more trans people than we used to, more young people, more children, more heterosexual people. Keep going here, Jorge. More black and brown people. And we have more staff diversity. We have 3 male, 4 females, 2 people of color, and we have multiple generations among our staff. So that helps because people see us regularly, and so we will continue to work on that, but it is better than it used to be. All right, and then also worship that draws from multiple traditions. We have already started to do some of that. You saw that in the spiritual landscape research. More contemporary and relevant to a diverse congregation. So our music is more diverse, which we'll talk about in a minute, but a lot of different ways that we are trying to do worship. More progressive theology is preached, taught, and lived. I want to underscore the "and lived" part. I think that that's helping for our attendance. And authentic welcome of all people. It's something people tell us, and JT will talk about that in a little bit, but that people come here and feel authentically welcomed, not just by the staff, but by all of you, and so that's very important. And then improved music program that can provide diverse kinds of music. Yes, that's a biggie. Better process for welcoming first-time guests, and better social media footprint, and improved media on Sundays and events. Not only in the room, but our media is also very much improved online. You know, so many of you may not need that, but for the people who do that. In fact, I want all of you to wave to the people who are online tonight. I know we have at least 2 people from Dallas, Texas that are on tonight, and so we want to welcome all of you and thank you for being here. All right, a big piece of our worship attendance improvement is the improved music program. So I want to ask Julie to please come up and have her talk a little bit about the music program. These are the 4 people who are involved in our music program. Julie's our music director. Reverend Collis directs the praise team. Oliver obviously is a soloist and also helps with both the choir and the praise team. And Christina is our pianist.
Well, hello. Oh, I could use your podium, though.
You can.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Julie.
Are we still awake? All right, we can do this. I just have a quick 12 points to go through. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But yes, look at this is your music staff. It's grown. And we have both. So I'll just go through. I have 3 points because Lily taught me well. I have a short 4th one, but the 3 are invest, and I want you to understand and listen, like when I was thinking about writing these remarks, how much our music program, and we call it music ministry, because it is just so integrated in all the goals and that outside research as well. I mean, I was Googling earlier, like, why do we still have a church choir? Why do we have music in the church? And of course, it's just all through the reasons why, because it's a form of engagement.
Yes.
Whether it's external out in the broader world or internal. And it just fits so beautifully with the vision for this congregation and this community that you all, these leaders, have been bringing to you. Okay, so one thing is investments in staff to support this growth. And this was huge. So in 2023, I was asked to sort of co-lead and try it out with Oliver, our longtime soloist here at the Church of the Trinity. And we got things going and we got things going. And then in 2024, they said, hey, would you like to come on and we'll actually pay you a little bit and sign a contract and make it real. And that felt good to me, right? Because it's an investment, right? So I'm not in it for the money, but it makes me feel like, yes, I have a commitment. It's a professionalized thing, and it's a priority of the church. You all voted on it. You all supported it. So there I am. Well, what did we need? We had some wonderfully kind-hearted volunteers playing piano. We had, of course, lost Diane Hewitt years ago, beloved. That piano was just, it was just crying out for someone to come and love it up on a regular, consistent basis. How did we find Christina? Community outreach, just talking to people, trying this and that. Do you know anybody? Do you know anybody? What a blessing, right? Yes. What a blessing. Yeah. She teaches full-time at a private school. That's why she's not here tonight. But she comes to some of the young adult events. She's come to trivia, and that's how it works, right? She's not a person who was like, yeah, I'm a churchgoer. She brought up going to church, but it's like, but what a loving, when we talked to her about, this is what you should know about this community you're joining, and we sat down, and both Lily and Collis talked to her, and it was like, oh, okay. And then here she is, and you can see the change in her, right? She stands up, and just how beautifully she pays attention during worship, and she provides the music so seamlessly in the background. I cannot tell you what a difference that has made. Lily has shared that a lot. What a difference. It allowed us to save money. We did invest in her, rightfully so. But we don't have to buy tracks now, right? We don't have to pay royalties for music that we're using illegally during service, okay? I don't think I was supposed to say that out loud. I know. Okay. Turn that off of the camera. But seriously, right? And she doesn't need to always download. I don't have to buy 25 choral octavos for her, all right? So there's a real savings over time in so many ways. I just want you to always keep in mind, she's young, she's talented, she's flexible. She has brought in friends. I'll talk about that in a minute. So those were huge, huge investments. Second, community engagement. Okay, we talked about internal, external. We have had, since I started doing this, over 20 guest musicians come, and some are paid, right? So that's budget, but some love offerings, some out of the beauty of their heart just come and share their gifts from all over. We've had gospel singers. I mean, we've had the Marvin Matthews, of course. We've had Brenda Waddy, who now loves coming here. We've had Kim Wisdom. Jules Rain has come and sang and played music. We've had Madeline Mangus, who's an SCF fundraiser, who just loves this church. And of course, we have our longtime gifted soloists, Oliver and Marcia. Okay, treasures, yeah. And so it just adds and adds. I mean, I just have a whole list here. Gina and Kelly, who came. Instrumentalists, we've had violinists, piano, cellists, trumpets, flutes, guitars. Malcolm has sat in for a little while. Where's Malcolm? Yeah, brave, all right. So, and then the ensembles we've joined with. Diversity Choir, the Glimmer Women's Ensemble from Diversity has come. That was so wonderful. Suncoast MCC, we did a musical exchange. Our choir went down, their choir came up. I've played trumpet down there. King of Peace, right? Yep. There we go. So our Christmas concert, that's another way of engagement, right? And that has also grown. So we used to do, for 2 years since I was here, I know more, we did a joint concert with King of Peace. We had over 30 in the choir. We had instrumentalists, 2 pianists. Great. Well, second year, again, beautiful. This year, year 3 that I'm doing this, we're going to do it on our own. So that's, I know, right? We have enough choir members. We have grown. We've got some guests coming in, okay? We've got instrumentalists. We've got special guests. Justin Ryan's going to sing, Oliver. So it just, like, it just feels so good to have this foundation and the support. You know, I have to always thank Collis, because music falls under what she does out of all the gazillion other things that she's doing. And JT is also so good about always being in the choir, being in the praise team, okay? So there's the other thing. Number 3 is this, to match this new spiritual landscape, okay? Blended music to match the blended worship, all right? So you know, like if you've been coming here anytime, think of all the genres we're doing, okay? Soup to nuts. We've got Broadway. We've got country music. We did boy bands. We do classical. We did Taizé. We did chant music. We did a piece in Latin last year. And the Christmas concert is another beautiful tradition on the very traditional side, where we get the choir and we do all the music that we love. Praise team, yeah, yay, Al. Al, our little drummer boy. Praise team again. I mean, gosh, I think it was spring, like 2023, we kind of sat around. We had a couple of guitar players. We had no music. Somebody had their boom box. And we're like, yeah, okay. Now it's just phenomenal. Like, we're working on harmonies, and we have audio equipment. We're working on how we blend, how we listen to monitors. Like, we're tweaking because there's such good stuff there, okay? And we attract people. Jenny has just recently joined us, you know? Yay! Jim Dando was brave, come on up to the choir. Okay, some people try it. The numbers go up and down, right? So I can't say, like, when I started there was 12 people and now there's 50. People come in, they try it, they say, yeah, not right now for me. Maybe I'll come back, you know, or this isn't my kind of music. And I said, well, come back in August. We might be doing, you know, who knows what. We might be doing rap if Collis has her way. Okay. We've done some things, too, with growing more connected as a choir. We did a dinner this summer over at Duffy's that was really fun. And that followed the retreat from the pastors, so I could bring my little slides, and while we were having a free 2-for-1 beer, we could talk about their priorities. Okay, we are plugged in. We are not just something extra. All right, the music program is part of worship. It is part of how we show up. Yeah. So I was looking back. We did a little choir survey back in January 2024. And I looked, and we've actually done some of the things. I loved hearing from you. One person wanted to wear khakis. And now we have, Jim. You're welcome. Too much black. I know, so much black. Black pants, black pants. Well, you're welcome. We've done that. We are more prepared. We plan ahead. When they do the sermon series, we have our music ready, and we get to rehearse more. It builds confidence in our group. We communicate regularly. People roll their eyes when Julie's email comes out on Wednesdays, but there it is. Okay. So on and on. But I hope you get the sense of how much growth and commitment, and it truly does take a village. So I thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Julie Waters, everyone.
Makes such a big difference to have good music and worship. So what the statistics show is that if you have good preaching, you can get by but barely with bad music. But if you have bad preaching and bad music, you might as well just close up the doors and go home, right? And so we struggled for quite a while with this bad music business. And so, we struggled a lot. So, and especially after the pandemic, we lost our longtime pianist, Diane Hewitt, to death after the pandemic. So we had quite a struggle. So big difference to come to church and love the music, right? So we're so grateful to all of our musicians. And then another thing that has helped with worship is for our attention on the first-time guests. Like I said, we were aware that we've always had a lot of guests. That's a good thing. But retaining them is a whole other matter. So JT, this was on his list. You'll see that on the back of your page there. This was on his list to work with us as a team on how we were going to address it.
Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to, now that I have the mic again, let's give a hand to Reverend Lily as well, who steers this staff and this boat. She could have easily said, no, I'm going to retire since this pandemic happened, but she knew that she wanted to stick with it, so we are totally grateful for that. So first-time guest process, so you know that we have these blue contact cards. They see me, they get a gift, but we wanted to focus on what happens after they get out of the room. So often they were leaving and then they wouldn't come back, and so we were like, well, let's pay attention to what we do. So there's a process now where they get an email from whoever preached that weekend. The next week, they get a text message. The week after that, they get another email just so they know that we're thinking about them so we can pull them back in. So the total number of first-time guests in the 7 months we have been focusing on this is 41 people. You can see that's from April 6th to November 2nd. I think that was about 31 weeks, something like that. So it yielded about 1.8 people per week. So 2 people, let's round up. So what's really great about all of those first-time guests is that 22 of them have returned at least one time. That's over 50% of our first-time guests in the past 7 months. We also have 16 of them who have returned 4 or more times to worship. That's 39% of all of our first-time guests. Yes, yes. So the highlight is that 12 of them came in the month of June. That's where we had the most out of any month so far. That's 31% of the total. That's probably Pride Month and other things. People just really like the month of June to come visit. This is one of my personal favorite, is 13 of these people fall into a young adult category. That is 31% of first-time guests. So they are coming there and enjoying, and many of them are coming online after the fact. 9 started by watching online, or they watch online with some regularity. Maybe they visited, but they want to watch with some sort of regularity. I got a text from someone on Sunday morning that the live stream had gone out just briefly, and then it immediately got back on. And I was like, oh, yeah, Dio, you're still watching. That's great. But that's 21% of first-time guests, so it's not just about who we see in the room, but we have an engagement well beyond the room. So we will continue to look at our first-time guest process and keep looking at that data and keep honing it in to try to keep on retaining. Whenever I got here last year, we would have probably 1 or 2 first-time guests a week, and then that was the last time we'd probably see them. But the other part of this is that it's not just about what I do or what Collis does or what Lily does, but we get testimonials in these emails where people say, I've never felt so welcome in this church. Or, I never thought I would go into a church where I could hold my partner's hand and feel comfortable. So that tells me that MCC definitely matters to us. But what it really tells me is that they're not just feeling welcomed by the people on staff who get paid to do it, but they're feeling welcome by the congregation, and that is why they're coming back, because of what you do. So pat yourselves on the back for that. Go onto social media, looks like. So the last 90 days, I can tell you, happily, we are trending up. Our Facebook account has gotten 61,000 views, 3.3 reactions. Those are your likes, your shares, your comments, and then 3.3 thousand reactions, 73 net follows on Facebook, so people who want to see what sort of content we're putting out there. Our Instagram has 31.5 thousand views. Yes, and that's where young people are gathering. So it's growing every single day. And then 13.8 thousand accounts are reached by our content, so they're seeing it throw up on their while they're scrolling, or just people sharing our content on Instagram. There was one more there, but I'll go on. 601 profile visits in the last 90 days. Instagram only shows me 90 days, so I gave you data for 90, but I can tell you for the whole year, it is still trending upward. We also have our TikTok account. Anybody on TikTok out there? I know Marley is. I know Jenny is. We got some over here. How many of you are following Church of the Trinity MCC on TikTok? All right, all right, all right. All right, so we've got 45.9 thousand views, 40.6 thousand audience reach, so that is where all of our TikToks are going. People are seeing it, engaging with it, so we are having an impact, and that's not just in the city of Sarasota or in Bradenton. That is all over the world. People are engaging with our ministry. And then in the past 90 days, we had 557 profile views. People saw our content, clicked on it, and said, I want to know more about this church. So the best news is that all of these numbers are trending upward on average of 35% from this time last year. That is huge. Yes. And I'm going to invite this really handsome media lead to come give an update. I think you should. Might take him on a date.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm going to sit. I'm moving back there left and right. I wrote something down, but I might go off script, and I'll keep it short and sweet and with love. First of all, good evening. Before anything else, I want to start by saying a huge thank you to our incredible media volunteers. Without them, we simply could not extend our blessings to those worshiping with us online. So today, let's celebrate Jesse, Mari, Reverend Kay, who's watching online, Elia, who recently joined the armed forces, and Amy, who stepped in to support during special events. So thank you so much. Your dedication makes a difference in our daily, weekly activities. So thank you so much. When I stepped into media ministry, I was a volunteer. Jesse taught me a lot. Mari, they took me under their wing, right? So I appreciate, them opening their arms to help me, right? So I strive for the same with whoever is learning, whoever is joining us. I think it's important when people walk through that double door after they greet our ushers, they look left and they see the media booth. So a simple smile to someone who just walks through those doors for the first time I think it's key, right? For me, learning sound, I don't know if you guys remember, we had Jules in the past, and then I stayed here as the media leader and very quickly had to learn sound. A little bit about me. I was a performer back in the days. I was a dancer, a still walker, roller skater, but I was never on the other side of the operation, right? Never thought I had to step into the technical aspect of it. But I noticed we had a need here, right? Jesse has been doing it for so long, but you can't count just on one person. And I just learned it myself. I watched YouTube videos. I started reading. I think JT was like, oh, no, you again. Walked away, go upstairs, right? But there was something so satisfying about it, because I knew next week I was going to come in knowing something a little bit more than I knew the week before, and trying to share with the team without overwhelming them, because I was so excited. We can do this. We can do that. We can get better here and there. So it was like Christmas every week for me. Opening a new present, watching a new video to learn more, right? So I ended up loving it every moment of it. I really enjoy it. So I would like to talk a little bit about equipment and improvements. Well, we haven't really added brand new gear yet. We have been creative with what we have. We started using equipment that was rarely touched before, like condenser mics, which are those mics that are right here. The floor monitors, we have one little one here, one by the drums, and better stage organization. This is very, very important for safety purposes, right? Making sure all of our cords are properly secured. We tape them down. We have a little box back there that we also have a lot of cords. So dry safe, take care. That every time there's a new series, we pretty much have to reroute the stage. It looks like to me, a little puzzle. And on Thursdays, after the rehearsal is over, so most of the time JC stays and he helps me. Of course, it's a job of two if we want to get it done quick. Still takes 2-3 hours to get it all done and organized the way I think is best for operational purposes, right? These changes have helped us transition smoothly between series and create a rich experience for everyone. And yes, we did make one tangible upgrade. We received 3 new chairs for the media booth. They're very comfy. This might sound a little something small, but I think the amount of time that we spare there on Sundays, special events, or during the week whenever someone comes here and is sitting at the booth, comfort is very important. And those who work from home or those who work in an office will understand, or if you at some point did, or if you have your comfy chair at home watching TV. On stage, we have been intentional about routing and reorganizing chords for every series. It takes hours, but once it's done, we're ready for the month and ready for guest musicians too. Whenever we have a guest musician, they bring their own devices, their own instruments. They're ready, plug it in and go. We don't have to start from scratch, right? So it's important because we don't want to show up on Sunday. Oh, we have to do this. Oh, we have to do that, right? So prepping prior, knowing what's happening the whole month. Who's coming? Is it a guitar player? Is it a trumpet? Is it Julie with her beautiful talent? So all of that it's very important. And yeah, we are ready for the month and ready for the guest musicians too. For vocalists, this improved setup has allowed the praise team to connect more deeply with each other, with the musicians, and most importantly, through the Holy Spirit, because anything can happen on stage when you feel it, you let it out, you go off script, and you sing your heart, right? Content and online worship. This one it's very it is I'm gonna call it a puzzle, and Jesse and Mari, and every time we're there, anything can happen. Technology, technology, right? If you're here for trivia now, you probably noticed the upgrades: animation, sounds, videos, graphics. And for our online worshipers, we have added visual content so they can follow along when pastors use images or other aids whenever they're preaching. If there's any image that they want to talk about or connect with whatever they're preaching, we're showing that online as well. One of our biggest wins came this past Easter. We separated. Well, let me go back. We were getting a lot of feedback of we can't hear Lily, we can't hear this. Oh, it's too loud, and all that. So we were always constantly controlling the audio through a device, going up and down in YouTube. So it was very inconsistent, going up and down YouTube. We started to research what can we do to split, having in-house audio separated from online audio, and be able to balance it, because everything that goes through those little devices takes that data, and it it's not the same quality. It sometimes it loses quality. So on our end, what can we do to make that better? So Easter this year, we separated online audio control from in-house sound. So we can now fine-tune vocals, instruments, and speaker mics for a clean, balanced sound online. It took some time testing a new process, but it's working. Sometimes it doesn't because, again, technology. But we have the power now that if any of you is watching from home on Sunday and you experience anything, you put in the chat. The person controlling YouTube and the cameras, hey, we need more mic from Lily. We need more vocals. We have that power now to do it without affecting what's happening in house. So I think it's very important. Our challenges and growth, of course, with big improvements we bring big challenges, right? So our video switcher, which is what takes the information that is being showcased on our monitors, the audio. I lost my. Our video switcher sometimes struggles with latency and even crashes. So how fast that little machine can process the data that it's receiving to then go online. Sometimes the online worship is 30 seconds behind, 20 seconds behind. So it crashes sometimes. But we stay calm. We work fast. On Sunday, it actually happened on Sunday. They mentioned it earlier. It was Jesse and myself there, Jesse handling 2 computers. I'm handling audio. I think announcements started. We lost YouTube. And Jesse looked at me, we don't have YouTube. And they were starting to talk and sing. And I was like, okay, focus on the slides. Let me just reset everything and we're going to get it. And it was up within, I don't know, Jesse, 5 minutes. It was quick. So staying calm, not showing the people on stage that we're struggling back there and sweating, but it's fun. We stay calm and work fast so the in-person experience isn't disrupted and the online experience is back quickly. Another challenge we've overcome is understanding the needs of our choir and praise team. I now show every Thursday here to listen to them, to know what they're rehearsing, to know what their needs are going to be. Sometimes we give them the opportunity to rehearse with, the actual setup, so they can start feeling how far am I from JT today? Do I need my monitor? Who do I listen to be able to sing better or be together as a group? And this also helps pastors and volunteers have a clear technical direction, camera angles, transitions, our cues, so the service flows smoothly. I'm not gonna say it's perfect because there's so much going on, and the more content we see on the screen, the more we have to do out there, while still keeping the online audience engaged with us. But I love it. It's been a great experience. I think I have found my path in through worship, and I hope I can do it for longer, right? Thank you. We're a small but mighty team, and this is it, I promise. We're a small but mighty team, and we're always open to new hands and hearts, whether it's a simple click or running a camera. There's a place for every skill level. If you're curious, come see me. We'll love to have you. Thank you.
I want to say that if you'll read the sheets that you have in front of you, you'll see sort of what our goals were for this year, kind of where we are in the process, because these are goals that were for this year and next year. So when we set out on these things, we knew it was going to be a 2-year span. Some of them you'll see are done. We've finished them. Some of them are in process. Those will make up some of our goals for next year. And so I think I also want you to notice that what's on there is who is owning each of these things, and that's because we work as a team. You know, it's like we own different pieces, so we may be driving it, but all of us work together to make these things happen all the time. Collis just turned to me and said, you know, let's just skip over my stuff. But I don't want to do that entirely, because I want you all to understand that even though her name's not on a lot of the things on the back of there, that's because the day-to-day running of the church, which is a whole bunch of things, is really what Reverend Collis does all the time. All the time. Yeah. So she's been our administrative guru. She's been a bit of an executive pastor in this sense, because she really keeps everything running day to day. And so she's just accomplished so many things, made so many things more efficient. We have, I think it was on your slide, we have 18 different groups that rent our facility, and almost all of that is because of Reverend Collis. Really just not only seeking them out, but also when people call and turning those calls into actual facility rentals, which is a nice piece of our income. She is almost singularly responsible for the Mangrove School, which will be a $50,000 addition next year. And she also does our programming, so especially our internal programming. And then, of course, JT does our young adult programming. A lot of really great gains in the young adult arena as well. And so I'm sorry we don't have as much time to actually look at that. I want to end tonight, though, so if you'll go all the way to slide 88. You see all that? Yeah, you're welcome. We'll just switch on over that tonight. I want us to look a little bit beyond even next year. And I want you to remember that word we talked about, gathering. Remember, I talked about that. And I want you to think about this beautiful piece of property we have, and the fact that about 12 acres of it we're about to sell for $1.3 million. And so we're going to have some money that we have to decide what to do. And we will make those decisions as we go. But here's the one thing I want us to make sure we don't do, that we don't just spend a lot of money without a vision for what it's for. Where are we headed, and how do we invest in where we're headed? Not just sort of piecemeal together, but invest in where we're headed. And so I just want to give you a glimpse of some of the places I think we're headed. And it's actually just a beautiful picture, and I just want you to imagine it in your mind's eye, because about 25 years ago, this church had a dream that this campus would be a center for the queer community. That was 25 years ago. Those plans did not pan out. And today, I don't think it will look like we had envisioned it 25 years ago. I don't think that that's what the landscape looks like anymore. But I do believe using our campus as a place where people can gather is a worthy thing for us to look at in our future. Gather in all kinds of ways. So I want you just to imagine. I've listed a bunch of them, and I just want you to imagine it. For people to gather to go to school, that's already happening, right? Every day, kids are here going to school. People gather to work a community garden. We're already talking to the school about partnering with them to create a community garden. And it would have been nice this last couple of weeks with SNAP benefits, taken away, if we'd had a community garden where we could have been a piece of the help in that. Gather to remember our trans siblings in the Trans Memorial Garden. Gather to claim justice so those who died of AIDS will not have died in vain. It's a justice issue. Gather for weddings and other celebrations. Gather for coffee and pastries. What if we built a little coffee shop down there, by the way? Who knows? I mean, envision, how that might work. Gather for the burial of our pets. What if we had a pet cemetery here? Gather for retreats and meetings. Gather for acts of social justice. Gather to create and dream. Gather for spirited and dynamic worship. Gather to meditate and reflect. We've got a beautiful space over there under the tree where we have a prayer wall. And the school's talking to us about moving the labyrinth, which they're willing to pay for. And we might be able to make it a really much nicer labyrinth and put it over closer to the tree, where we have a whole space for meditation, for the labyrinth, for all kinds of things that we can make it look a lot better and serve our whole community. Gather to take a freedom walk. Have a trail that is our freedom trail. Gather to memorialize our loved ones who've passed. We have this beautiful memorial garden here. Gather to center diversity. Rather than center queerness, what if we centered diversity here? This is a place here where people can count on that. Gather to walk our dogs. So that's already happening. It might mean that we consider changing our name, right? It might mean that we restructure our staffing plan to accommodate a new way of doing ministry. Maybe in the future there won't just be a senior pastor and staff. Maybe it will look completely different. It might mean that we design our property around new ways to gather instead of building more buildings. So these are all ways that we can imagine our future, because gathering in authentic community, with our spirituality being one that we live out, is really the future of the landscape. And we're in a unique position, and we're agile enough and changing enough that I think we can meet this moment. And so I hope that you all, even though you're sleepy, will take a hold of that, because pretty soon we're going to have to get ready and go. We're going to have to get ready and go. And so thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sitting through a whole lot long things. And please, if you would, be sure that you get your pledge card out of your generosity packets. It looks like this, because on Ingathering Sunday on the 23rd, which is Sunday after next, we'll be bringing our pledges. We'll bring them to worship, and that is what the Ingathering is about. And this is what you're supporting, is that we keep doing this work, okay? So I hope you'll pray on that, think about what you want to do. And remember, pledging is two things, and then we'll be done. Pledging is your generosity with no strings attached. It's your spiritual work. It's my spiritual work. That's one thing it is. The other thing it is it helps us to know how to plan, because we kind of know what to expect. So I hope you'll pray on that and think on it. And I know that all of you will be generous in all the ways that you can. And we're grateful for that. And so thank you. We love you. We're so grateful to serve you here. It's just the best job in the world. I love my job, and it is the best job in the world. Thank you. Love you. And good night.